The day my mother laughed at my engagement, I didn't end the conversation, I just stopped defending it. "You're marrying a security guard," she asked, smiling as though she'd mistaken it for a joke. "After everything we did for your education." My fiancé, Daniel, wasn't in the room to hear it. He was outside loading groceries into the car because he'd insisted on carrying every bag despite finishing a 12-hour shift. I remember looking through the kitchen window at him, calm, unhurried, the kind of man who held doors open even when nobody thanked him. "I love him," I said. Mom sighed as if I'd admitted defeat instead. Within a week, my relatives had formed opinions they never bothered to hide. My aunt called it settling. My cousin wondered whether we'd always struggle financially. An uncle joked that family reunions would need extra parking because security guards never stopped watching people. Daniel heard almost none of it. Not because I hid everything, because whenever I tried to tell him, he'd gently ask, "Will repeating it make your day better?" Usually, the answer was no. We mailed 68 invitations. I chose every envelope by hand. Daniel insisted each guest receive a handwritten note thanking them for being part of our lives. The responses never came. At first, I blamed the mail, then busy schedules, then people waiting until the deadline. The RSVP date arrived with an empty mailbox. Not one acceptance, not one decline, just silence. My mother finally called 3 days later. "We assumed you'd understand." "Understand what?" "Nobody feels comfortable encouraging this." She sounded most relieved to say it aloud. The wedding coordinator asked whether she should remove rows of chairs. I nodded. Florists reduced the order. The bakery offered to make a smaller cake. Each adjustment felt strangely practical instead of heartbreaking. Daniel never complained. "If it's just us," he said one evening while helping fold table cards we no longer needed, "then it's still a wedding." The morning arrived warm and cloudless. I waited in the bridal room longer than necessary, not because I expected anyone. Because hope has a habit of ignoring evidence, the ceremony began. No parents, no siblings, no cousins, no familiar faces rising when the music started. I walked myself down the aisle. It wasn't brave. It wasn't symbolic. It was simply what had to happen. Daniel looked at me exactly the same way he had every day since we'd met. No pity, no embarrassment, only quiet certainty. That steadied me more than applause ever could have. We exchanged vows before a small gathering of friends, neighbors, two elderly women who owned the cafe where we'd had our first date, and several people from Daniel's workplace who had quietly filled empty seats without making it feel like charity. Afterward, while we shared slices of cake with our guests, someone recorded a 10-second video. Daniel was laughing because one of the cafe owners had accidentally dropped frosting on his sleeve. He wiped it away, thanked her, and kept smiling. The caption read, "Her groom is the kindest man I've ever met." Someone in the comments recognized him, not from social media, from an incident months earlier. "He stayed with my father after his heart attack until the ambulance arrived." Another person replied, "He found my autistic son when he wandered away from the shopping center." Another, "He talks frightened people through emergencies better than anyone." The video spread far beyond our little reception. Then came the part none of us expected. A local news page contacted the guest who had posted it. They wanted permission to feature Daniel because several emergency responders had reached out independently with stories about him. A week later, our phones buzzed during breakfast. The news segment showed firefighters, paramedics, and police officers describing moments when Daniel had calmly protected people before they arrived. One police captain summed it up simply: "Uniforms tell you someone's job. Character tells you who they are." Daniel has earned our respect many times over. Watching respected public officials speak about him wasn't dramatic. There was no ceremony, no medal, just professionals acknowledging another professional. That afternoon, my phone finally filled with messages, not congratulations, explanations. "We didn't know, you never told us. We misunderstood." My mother called 3 times. I answered the fourth, she cried. I wish we'd come. I believed her, but regret doesn't erase absence. Months later, she asked whether we could have dinner together. We did. She apologized without asking me to forget. I appreciated that. Our relationship didn't magically return to what it had been. Some conversations stayed careful, some silences remained. Daniel treated her with the same respect he showed everyone else. He had nothing to prove. Neither did I. Sometimes people ask whether I feel vindicated, because the world eventually recognized the man my family dismissed. The truth is quieter than that. The happiest part wasn't watching strangers discover his worth. It was realizing I had believed in it before anyone else's approval arrived. And when I think back to walking down that aisle alone, I no longer remember the empty chairs first. I remember the man who never once made me feel like I was walking alone.